morning. I vividly remember it was 4 years ago that one new GCC was announced. And with a lot of fanfare, significant amount of money spent in brand building. They attracted probably the best of talent, crazy compensations, and we were all worried. I was personally worried, oh my God, what's going to happen to best of my talent? And so were many others. 2 years down the line, guess what? I read an article that GCC had to let go almost half of their staff. Around similar time, another GCC opened. Probably they did not have the strategy figured out yet. Nothing fancy, probably they struggled a little bit. But again, around the same time when one GCC had to let go and were trying to wind down, this particular GCC not only survived but thrived and became one of the most successful GCCs that we think of. I'm sure you can resonate with this. This is not something which I'm telling new to you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Avinash Samrit. I have been fortunate to build 4 GCCs. And what I have for today is, as Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great says, he did not really do much, but just collected information from his peers from different companies and put that together. This is what I have. These are my observations, my learnings, a lot of it from interacting, from my personal experience, and also from my interactions with leaders like you sitting in here. So whatever you see here, if you say, yeah, maybe I'm the one who said this to Avinash, yeah, probably you're right, okay? So I do not take ownership that, I do not claim that this is all original, but this is actually a distilled version of what I have observed as traits of a high-performing GCC. And just to set some context, what we really talk about is, we talk about this whole transformation of GCCs, how GCCs have gone from cost center to value center. I think that's a very pertinent conversation, but something which is very, very important. But I think what we have to also look at is that what are the key success drivers? How are you measuring success? And success beyond scale. I remember, and I've been party to this crime, I used to proudly say, oh, I have X thousand people in my team. Is that the true measure of success? Or is it that what role my GCC plays as a strategic partner? So with this context, I thought I'll talk about what I call the 10 ingredients of high-performing GCCs. And it all starts with, and I can debate it anytime. The first and foremost for me is executive sponsorship. No matter how good a leader you are, what great team you have, what capability you are able to bring in, if we do not have support from the top, from the C-suite, it's going to be struggle. Not that you won't be able to deliver, but to really be that high-value GCC that we all talk about, it's going to be extremely challenging, because that's when you align with the leadership. That's when you get an opportunity to create credibility. We talk about innovation, but hey, if there is no support, what innovation are you talking about? You can do a lot of experiments, but no one is going to allow you to actually put that idea to work. And when all this happens, unless all this happens, can you create any strategic impact? And if you are not able to create strategic impact, probably you are not that high-performing GCCs. To me, my first observation is executive sponsorship any day, anytime. If you don't have that, it's going to be a struggle. My second learning is around leadership. Sometimes, as leaders like you and me sitting in this room, I know we have done this for many years, so we don't have to brag about anything, but sometimes I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for the value that the GCC leadership brings to the table. Because all we are looking for is pragmatic, assertive, visionary leaders, all great words, but actually putting that into action is something so very challenging. And then is the typical story about balancing global and local. And we deal with that every single day. What the corporate headquarters says, team doesn't understand. Team is not able to communicate what they want. So where do you bring that alignment? And despite all of that, you have a pragmatic approach, assertive, which can get a little challenging. I mean, you guys are definitely assertive, but can we say the same thing about the team 2 levels under us? I think that's a question we all know. It's a mixed bag for us. And that's when, okay, you have a visionary leader who's fostering, great culture, agility, but the role of leader, the GCC leader, to me, is the second most important element in success of any GCC. And that's when the next item comes, is what is your strategic focus? Are you looking at headcount, or are you looking at outcomes? And I think it's high time that GCCs look beyond headcount. We know of what we call nano GCCs, 15, 20 people, but they're still having significant impact. So I think the shift has to happen from headcount to real key success metrics which are aligned to business outcomes. And we talk about that. This is what I learned from speaking to many of you in this room and others in the ecosystem, that only when we are aligned to outcomes that are expected at the corporate level, we'll be able to be a successful GCC. I mean, I can quote an example that very quickly, we have a collections team. And one of my directors was presenting in the SteerCo, and he talks about, oh, we have improved our average call handling time. They make phone calls. Average call handling time by X%. Oh, my number of calls per day for an agent has improved. And the CEO had asked me to keep quiet, so I had to keep quiet. And he kept on, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean, ultimately? And he said, this is what I'm focusing on. But at that level, is that leader who's maybe 2 levels below you understand that the focus actually is what is the business outcome you're looking at? Those metrics are right, no doubt about it. But is that the true metric for your success? Because the metric there would be how effective is my collections. Am I collecting money faster? That's what essentially the goal is. Because when you bring in that kind of a thought process, our focus goes beyond the headcount as such. And so the other thing I learned, again, is around what is the metric we're looking at. As I said, move away from headcounts. It's value-based performance, as I said. What value are you bringing in? And while doing all of that, are we bringing in a culture of accountability? Are we holding ourselves accountable? Because that really becomes a competitive advantage for us. And I don't know how many of the companies actually talk about, and not in India, but the corporate headquarters says, oh, our GCC actually brings competitive advantage for us. And I know we all aspire to be there someday. And we are all at different phases of our journey in this whole competitive landscape business altogether. So, because when we bring in that's when we talk about empowerment, innovation, leadership, recognition, all great stuff. However, it's easier said than done, because important element is, do we have that culture? Typically, we struggle with, there's a corporate culture and there is a GCC culture, right? And is that aligned? And are we able to connect those dots, yet still need to localize, customize few of those things for India? We all know that. Everything that works in the United States from a cultural standpoint may not work here. We know it all. But those are the challenges. That's what I hear from leaders all the time, that my corporate headquarters says, we are going to do exactly everything, including employee engagement activities, in a certain manner, because that's what we do in the corporate. And then people like you and me struggle that I cannot replicate that as is. So how do we build those advantages? How do we build that bridge that we are still aligned to the overall framework, yet we are able to execute in a manner that it is effective and delivers outcome. And so that's the other thing I keep hearing from leaders all along, that how do you manage this culture thing? As I initially said, the global versus local balance. I think that's the critical element that we all have to deal with. And to me, that is another very important observation that I have after talking to leaders like you and leaders in the ecosystem every single time. And I don't think, I mean, we may say we have figured it out, but I don't think we'll ever be fully there yet. It's something which we'll continue to work on. It's an ongoing thing, but something definitely worth pursuing, because that culture itself could be our competitive advantage. That's my next observation in talking to leaders. One of the other elements is also part of culture is, the voice, ownership, accountability. We culturally, and I come from a middle-class background, studied in a tier 2 college, and did whatever I did, and I'm here. And a lot of us have similar stories. So the moment there is someone from the Western world in particular in front of us, the assertiveness level goes down. You guys agree? So how do you then, not yourself, the fact that you are sitting in this room, you have already crossed that barrier. But the challenge I hear from leaders is that how do you bring it to the next level and the next level, that they feel empowered? It's one thing that you empower the group, but do they feel empowered? Do they feel that they can speak up? Do they really have an open mindset, and they can not just having the mindset, but the confidence that they can talk about what they think. They can talk about, bold ideas. They can talk about, hey, I don't think this is how it works, or maybe there's a different way of doing it. How are we going to push that forward? And that ownership mindset, and that will come, of course, with organization support. We can be people who provide support. But then I'm very, very optimistic. And I say this to my team all the time. And I tell them, guys, when I was in college, out of my own, interest or need or whatever you call it, I started working when I was doing my engineering. And my first salary was 800 rupees a month. That's where I started. And from there, if I can come to wherever I am, you guys have all the resources in place. So it's definitely doable. And I think we as leaders have that responsibility of really making it happen. But I'm very, very confident that as this GCC model continues to mature, we will be able to deliver more and more. In fact, in one of the conferences, I had something interesting, and I did bounce that idea off with my manager, the CEO of the company, that should we even call ourselves GCCs? Because when we talk about a system where we are totally integrated, can we talk about us as just another office? And that's what I talk about. Are we willing to make those bold recommendations, not just what we call ourselves, but really challenge how things are done? Not how things are done within the GCC, but how business processes are being handled. Because in my personal experience in 4 GCCs, without exception, all the 4 GCCs that I worked for, I have had people who are playing the same role for 15, 20 years. And now we are kind of replacing those roles with people who have 15 months of experience at times, or maybe 3, 4 years of experience. But then getting them to understand the business, get the context, and then even if they understand, can they stand up and talk to someone with gray hair to say, I think there's a better way of doing it? I think that's where our challenge lies. So are we able to foster those who are able to foster that bold thinking, really redefining what's possible, and that all will happen when you build trust and relevance. So I think that's the next responsibility, next success factor for us as GCC leaders, that can I stick my neck out and say, I'll do something different. It's not easy. I'm sure you all have been through that. I have had, and I can publicly talk about it, I started a center in Pune as a second center. We had challenges, and my CEO said, Avinash, mistakes happen. Figure out how do you outplace those 20 people, close it down. I stuck my neck out. Alan, we'll make it happen, give me 3 months. Today we have 500 people there. So It does happen, it can happen. Because it all starts with this fundamental belief that we in the GCC ecosystem, we are not just order takers. We are not just following instructions and waiting for someone to give us an instruction to tell us what to do. We want to do much more beyond that. We are getting outside of the order taker mindset. Something it's a bitter pill to swallow in many cases, but that's the fact. Because only then, if you are not an order taker, we as the GCC are able to proactively look at what opportunities are there. How can I look at things which are seemingly impossible, at least difficult, and then move forward with those ideas. So that's the other thing which I learned from many of you people here and others from the ecosystem, that wherever we are able to break that particular barrier of a team which is not an order taker, but really an equal partner in having those conversations, I think that is where the GCCs do much better. But all this is possible only and only if we are able to build that trust and transparency. That's the other thing which I hear, which is, are you openly talk about your failures? Are you openly talk about challenges? I remember earlier when we used to do our steerco reviews for the GCC, and my team used to present all the metric, lot of data, everything is green. And Mike, my current CEO, he said, Avinash, if everything is green, either you're hiding something or you're not challenging yourself enough. But it's not that my team wants to hide, but they are afraid of speaking up or talking about a problem. So are we able to build that trust and transparency by giving our people confidence that, hey, it's okay to fail, and if there is a problem, talk before someone asks, talk about it. I think that is where those GCCs that have been able to do that, I would not say I have done it all, but wherever I hear the GCCs who have done it, I think they have been more successful than many others. Because we talk about a unified team, right? We say there's no on-site offshore. There's one enterprise mindset. That is what is going to accelerate innovation. That's when you become a true strategic enabler. All that will happen only when you do the previous step of building a culture of trust and transparency. Now, having said that, this is what I have. There is no secret sauce. Although my title says there's no secret sauce. It's just timeless, proven wisdom. I would like to hear from you now. Thank you.